Everyone thinks Ajay Dixit is a genius, even if he is depressed about his job and embarrassed of his wife Nisha. When life forces him on a Europe trip to understand World War II better, he starts learning more about her and himself. The streets of a small town in Lucknow seem dark, till a celebrity arrives. Ajay brings color wherever he goes, and people stop what they're doing to greet him with respect. Even the traffic cop makes way for him. It seems like Ajay must be someone influential. In reality, he's just a high school history teacher who has built his reputation on lies about his achievements. His students even believe he was about to work at NASA, but couldn't. Ajay likes giving advice to everyone in any field, and they already assume he's an expert. But in his own history class, he has no interest in teaching the students. He discusses cricket with his favorite student Papan, who worships him. Some people in his school doubt him, like Mr. Pandy, who takes a picture to show as proof about Ajay not teaching anything. Pandy drags the principal with him to Ajay's class, who gets a warning and asks his students to take their places. He pretends to teach them, but when he doesn't know the answer, he poses the question to the smartest student. The principal is impressed with the student's answer and feels Pandy is wasting his time. When he is done pretending for the day, Ajay takes to drinking with his trusted friend and follower, Bipin. He reminds Ajay of someone they used to bully, who is successful now. Ajay feels depressed about where he is in life and feels stuck in a worthless job and a failed marriage. He knows people only respect him because he has worked hard to maintain his image by showing people what they want to see. He enters home drunk to find an angry dad and a worried mother. His dad feels Ajay is very irresponsible and refuses to pay his growing credit card bills. Ajay doesn't want to engage with his parents anymore and heads to his room. He wakes up his sleeping wife Nisha by dropping a glass to make noise. He reminds her about this being his day to sleep on the bed. Nisha quietly takes her pillow and goes to sleep on the mattress. They got married 9 months ago, but their differences have only increased. Nisha was independent and happy before marrying him. She was also a bit upset about being diagnosed with epilepsy when she was very young and having regular seizures. She never dated anyone, but decided to marry the man who truly understands her. We watch their story as Ajay comes into her life and impresses her by showing everything he wants her to see. He seems kind, loving, and smart. Ajay knows Nisha is beautiful, from a business-class family and a top scorer, which makes her an ideal wife for his reputation, so people get jealous of him. When they get the chance to speak alone, Nisha immediately reveals she has epilepsy, but hasn't had an episode in at least 10 years. Ajay knows there are more benefits to marrying Nisha than losses, so he seems fine with taking the relationship forward. Ajay and Nisha decide to get married with elaborate ceremonies, and everyone can only see love between them. They are finally married and happy, and after the ceremony, his dad asks Ajay to check on her. Ajay enters the house and is shocked to see Nisha getting a fit in her wedding dress. Nisha's mother assures him that she will be fine soon. Ajay closes the door from outside, so no one looks at Nisha in that condition. They drive back to Ajay's place after the wedding, and Nisha apologizes for the seizure. She knows she must have forgotten to take her medicine, and blames it on the stress. This has truly happened the first time in 10 years, as she explained earlier, but Ajay chooses to remain silent and irritated about what this means for his reputation. After that day, Nisha tries to go out with Ajay, but he always has an excuse to not take her with him. When she eventually confronts him, he confesses that he doesn't think they can ever live like a normal married couple. She hasn't had a seizure since their wedding day, but Ajay feels embarrassed about taking her out, in case she starts vibrating in front of everyone. Nisha slaps him for this insult, but Ajay feels he would have left her on the day of his wedding if he didn't care about his reputation. Since that day, they just tolerate each other. Ajay's mom asks him to come early from work to drop Nisha to her parents' place, but he refuses to go anywhere with her, even if it seems insulting that he's missing from any social gatherings hosted by her family. He feels no one understands him in the house and leaves. He's in a terrible mood when he reaches his class and refuses to answer a question a student asks about Nazi concentration camps. The student feels Ajay should directly admit he doesn't know the answer, instead of making excuses. As all the other students start laughing, Ajay gets angrier and slaps him. Nisha's mother knows Ajay's parents care for her, but feels that a marriage is useless without support from her husband. It's very easy for Nisha to break up this relationship, but she still has some hope and wants to give it more time before she gives up completely. Ajay learns from a gleaming Pandy that the kid he slapped is the son of the legislator, the most influential man in the city. Bipin knows too, since this news has spread like wildfire, and Ajay's future seems bleak. His father offers full support and makes a few calls to people who might help them, so the legislator doesn't destroy Ajay's career. No one wants to get involved, and when Nisha finally reaches home, she knows something is wrong. Backed by the principal, Ajay requests the legislator with folded hands to forgive him. The legislator reminds the principal about education laws that state slapping a student is a punishable offense. He wants a disciplinary committee to decide if Ajay is fit to teach, and wants him to remain suspended till then. When he leaves the room, he faces the shame of being suspended in front of his students and teachers. Ajay knows he can't afford to get fired, since no one would hire him if he's declared guilty. He gets an idea and reminds Bipin about a cricket match he organized a few years ago. Bipin remembers the beautiful and grand atmosphere, but has no idea of the final score. Ajay performed terribly in this match, but that's the point he's trying to convey. This time too, he wants to create such a powerful ambience so that years later, people remember the feeling they got from the event, and not the result. He knows that's the only way he can save his reputation. Ajay refuses to take Nisha's help, and meets Papan to ask about what's happening in the school. Everything is almost the same, but their class is missing out on learning about World War II, which Ajay was supposed to teach them that month before exams. Ajay gets a brilliant idea and asks Bipin to be open-minded. He approaches the principal with Pandy present and dramatically insists he doesn't want his students to suffer because of his suspension. He makes it a point to highlight that he doesn't care about his salary, but plans to go to Europe to do something no one in their city has ever done. He will teach the kids about World War II from the locations where it was fought by connecting with them online. Bipin isn't sure this will work, but Ajay needs to do it to create an ambience. As expected, Pandy doubts Ajay's intentions, so he immediately brings out tickets he has purchased with his own money. The principal is forever impressed with Ajay and asks Pandy to be as dedicated as him. He has the permission, but knows this plan is too expensive, and he will require his father's money. He brings his plan into motion by faking tears and pretending in front of his dad that he's planning to sell his bike and other valuables. His father can see through his drama and directly asks what he needs. Ajay feels he needs a chance at a new life and wants to use this 1 month of suspension to take Nisha to Europe to work on becoming a better husband. He can also use the trip to teach the kids and wants to arrange money for it. He pretends he doesn't need his dad's help, but informs him about the amount he will need. Ajay knows taking Nisha along will be more expensive, but it's the only way his dad will agree to give them the money. Ajay's mother feels he's trying to trick them. His dad knows, but he still feels it's a small price to pay if this trip saves Ajay and Nisha's relationship. Nisha is finally excited, as Ajay plays along pretending to be a loving husband in the process of acquiring visas and getting money from his father. Ajay's mother gives Nisha some cash from her own savings for her personal expenses. Ajay makes sure people are following him on Instagram, so they can keep learning from his videos. Nisha thanks Ajay for this trip and feels hopeful for the first time. Since all the preparations are made, Ajay finally reveals the truth to her about not having any interest in the trip. He asks her to leave from the airport since he doesn't want her to tag along. Nisha is heartbroken and opens a letter in her drawer. She still knows she can't leave quietly and has to fight for herself first. She has decided she's going to Europe too, since it's her in-laws' money and not his, and calls out Ajay for being selfish and not letting her have a job or a life. She's done following his rules and will live for herself from now on. They are heading for the airport, and his parents are more excited about Nisha going for the trip than Ajay and ask her to have fun. Ajay hands over his bike keys to Bipin to make sure he hypes up his trip while he entertains people on social media. On the flight, an annoying passenger, Kalpesh, keeps asking Ajay to pass on some items to his brother Alpesh. When he has annoyed Ajay too many times, he takes a huge bite out of the last item and claims it as tax for disturbing him. Ajay gets cornered by an officer asking to check his bag. The lock doesn't open, so the officer breaks it. When Ajay notices the contents, he knows this isn't his bag. Nisha finds Kalpesh's name on it, so Ajay runs towards him to get his own similar-looking bag, but misses him by a minute. Ajay rants about the horrible clothes he will have to wear till he finds his bag, but nothing can stop Nisha from admiring the beautiful view. In their room, he is still irritated, but posts a video informing his students about reaching Paris. He will commence teaching them the next day and will later move on to Normandy, Amsterdam, Berlin, and finally Auschwitz to give them a proper World War II experience. While the students seem excited and curious about his trip, Nisha can't control her laughter at his fake enthusiasm. In Kalpesh's shiny and uncomfortable clothes, Ajay tries to start the next day, but keeps ranting. Kalpesh is also frustrated with Ajay's clothes, and his family makes fun of them. Nisha has decided to tour Paris separately, and is heading out to the Eiffel Tower. He claims to be a proper teacher, which is why he's starting this trip in the World War Museum. While she takes a bus and gets familiar with the routes, he decides to take an expensive cab he later regrets. He buys a cheaper ticket to the museum, but pretends that he'll provide the kids the most expensive tour. With his ticket, he gets stuck in an opera with no way out. Nisha has the time of her life shopping, taking pictures, and getting a portrait made. The students get anxious since they haven't heard from Ajay, who is unable to use his phone at all and has to sit through it. He gets more worked up about this failure, but tries to buy something comfortable for himself. Since the clothes are too expensive, he finally just settles for underwear. Ajay comes back to his room after a horrible day and notices everything from Nisha's day out on her bed. He even checks her phone for pictures and knows she had a great time. He pretends he had a wonderful day when Nisha gets out, but she can tell he hasn't. He confesses that he couldn't eat properly or understand the language and couldn't accomplish anything that day. He asks Nisha to help him out, since she clearly has a better idea of how to adjust in a new place. He pleads with her about feeling lost in an unknown country. She reminds him that she had to go through the same feeling when she moved to his house, and desperately needed the support of her husband. But she's a better person than him, so she agrees to help. Nisha brings him to the Eiffel Tower again, and asks him to trust her as they climb up the tower. She wants him to get away from the books, to understand that every corner of the place has a World War II story. Hitler never got to see the view they're enjoying, because the French destroyed the elevator and left the city, so he wouldn't destroy it. While Ajay is impressed with her knowledge, she knows anyone dedicated enough can find out about this. She takes him to a museum, which becomes part of his history lesson for the day, with a story from when Hitler attacked Poland. The students and the legislator start watching his videos again. When Nisha sends Ajay's mom their photo, she knows they're still sleeping in different beds. But his dad is confident that this trip will bring them close. The next day, Ajay hands his phone over to a stranger, who steals it when they're looking the other way. While Ajay anxiously starts chasing him, Nisha finds a shorter route to startle the thief, who throws the phone back at her. She hands him his phone back with a smile. He's not embarrassed to hang out with her in Paris, since no one knows him there. Even if he claims he doesn't care about his reputation, he still keeps cribbing about his clothes. His mom wants Nisha's wedding bangles, which are kept in her drawer back home. Ajay concludes his Paris chapter for his students with everything Nisha has taught him. Even if the principal can see Ajay is working hard, the legislator isn't satisfied with the disciplinary committee and wants to take matters into his own hands. Ajay's mother finds divorce papers that Nisha has kept in her drawer and alerts her husband. They meet Nisha's parents to discuss this, and feel like all their attempts to get them to bond are wasted if they've decided on a divorce. Ajay's dad wants to call them back, but Nisha's mom insists they should wait till they get back, to see how the situation is. Ajay and Nisha reach Normandy's biggest cemetery for World War II soldiers. He feels she has wasted money on the audio guide, but asks her to tell him what she finds out for his lesson. He is disinterested, and walks around the beach looking for beer. She is in tears while he keeps joking around, so she hands him over the guide and walks away. He decides to put the headphones on, and is transported to the day soldiers are fighting bravely for their lives on Omaha Beach. It's an open beach with no place to hide, and Ajay watches as all of them fall to their certain demise. He acknowledges that a war never benefits anyone, and feels bad that the history textbooks just mention one line about these soldiers, and not the pain that these 10,000 men had to go through. The students watch carefully as Ajay recalls his learnings from the trip, and the importance of learning certain details that reflect the impacts of war. Nisha doesn't understand why maintaining a certain image is so important to him. He feels he has been average his whole life, and won't be able to sit in a room with accomplished people like her if he doesn't lie about himself. Bipin informs him about the legislator planning something big against him. This trip now seems pointless to Ajay, but she knows he must have done something right to get a reaction from the legislator. She asks him to stick to his plan, since he has already started it, and because he has nothing more to lose. Kalpesh spots Ajay with his bag and runs after him. Nisha wants them to exchange bags, but Kalpesh has left his in Berlin with the ladies, since he's on a bachelor's trip with the men. Ajay wants his bag in return, but agrees to exchange one set of clothes with him. While they're exchanging clothes in the washroom and arguing, someone comes in and teases them about being lovers. Kalpesh is overwhelmed, and starts dancing with his brothers after getting a set of his clothes back. Ajay offers to carry Nisha's heavy bags this time, but gets exhausted by the time they arrive. He's very hungry, but doesn't have the energy to go out again. She remembers some ready-to-heat packets in Kalpesh's bag, and heats them up in the washroom before they enjoy it together. Bipin is confident about Ajay pulling this off, and brags about him being in Amsterdam now. They reach Anne Frank's house, and he asks Nisha to translate whatever the guide tells them, because he doesn't understand their accent too well. They learn about Anne's hiding place from the Germans, from where she kept writing, so she could describe her life to the world. Ajay wants to know what she would do if she knew this was her last day. Nisha wants to put on a dress she loves and drink beer. He wants to make her wish come true, and takes her to the store. He is speechless when she walks out wearing a beautiful gown. He feels he can't go to the bar with her like he is now, and gets an outfit for himself too. He notices people checking her out as she enters, and playfully teases them about her being taken. They have warmed up to each other, and soon after their first beer, Ajay can't help but compliment her about how street smart she is. He wants to get to know her better over more beers. While Nisha confesses this is her first beer ever, it's Ajay's first time drinking with a woman. This opens the floor for a deep discussion, and they share their interests over more beers. He knows there's nothing in common between them, but she doesn't see it as a problem. They head to the streets for a dance, where Ajay works on his own steps. When someone tries to dance with Nisha, he steals her away and dances intimately with her. They're now closer than ever, and start spending more time having fun. The video of them dancing that night goes viral with the students. Ajay seems to be in love, and likes smelling roses now. Their beds are also closer to each other as they sleep. They reach Berlin, where the war started and ended. They discuss Hitler's greed, and Nisha points out how they all are a little like Hitler, never satisfied with what's right in front of them. Bipin informs Ajay about the viral video, which the legislator might use against him. Ajay is angry with her for uploading the video, since he has worked too hard to build his image for it to be ruined by a mistake like this. She wanted to share it since it was the first time she felt appreciated by her husband, and they shared a special moment. But his reputation is too important for him, and he ends up calling her a defective piece because of her epilepsy. He instantly knows he has crossed a line, and apologizes. It doesn't matter, because Nisha understands that he will never change, and informs him about the divorce papers. Now that all her hope for him is gone, she wishes to return and sign the papers so she can leave him. He feels lost, and finally understands that the lies you feed to people to build an image never work, which is why there's only a car park in the place where Hitler ended. Kalpesh calls him to exchange bags, and when he notices the instant food packet in it, he remembers his good times with Nisha and smiles. While she informs him she's ready to leave for India the next day, Ajay continues to teach his students. He isn't his usual self and seems more depressed, which is clear to Kalpesh too. As they look around the museum and Kalpesh jokes about teddy bears, Ajay knows this was someone's whole life, packed into a suitcase when they were forced to leave. Ajay pictures how he would react if he had to pack a suitcase with his whole life, in limited time, while being threatened by Nazi soldiers. In that moment, he takes out all the material belongings and starts packing memories of his parents and Nisha. He fights the Nazi soldiers to get to his wedding photo with her. He drags his suitcase to the hotel and watches her getting ready to leave. He apologizes for his behavior and finally knows he is not good enough for her. She knows the biggest issue is that he will never accept that she has epilepsy. He begs her to not leave things unfinished and asks her to just complete 3 more days of their trip. Ajay is glad she decided to stay and informs his parents about reaching Krakow, from where they'll head to Auschwitz. They meet the house owner, Marusz, in Krakow and ask him for directions. It's time for the darkest chapter of the concentration camp in Auschwitz. They seem disturbed after their visit that day, but Marusz points out that the gas chamber they visit the next day will be much more disturbing. When Marusz praises Nisha's cooking, Ajay has a lot more things to add about her. They decide to tag along with Marusz to attend a talk that night from an Auschwitz survivor, Alex Graysenfeld. As he starts telling his story, Nisha translates it for Ajay. Alex feels he never appreciated his wife, till the day he got separated from her at Auschwitz. 1 hour with her in a day used to be enough for him, to help him wake up the next day in camp. When she didn't turn up one day, he knew she never would again. Ajay pictures himself with Nisha in that situation, and knows it can't be good. Alex feels every relationship goes through its Auschwitz, and that's when we understand how important the relationship was. He hopes none of them have to go through what he did. The next day they reach the gas chamber, from where Ajay continues his lesson for the students. Meanwhile, the legislator has planned a surprise test for the students, to figure out how much they have learned from the video lessons. Ajay and Nisha enter the gas chamber where Jews were tricked into entering, then later murdered with pesticides. Ajay pictures himself stuck in the chamber with all the Jews, while he tries to find his way back to Nisha, who seems to be lost. She falls down, stuck in the crowd, while he's still searching for her. Back in reality, Nisha is still on the floor, but this time, she's having one of her fits, and a crowd has gathered around her. Ajay runs to hold her hand and calm her down, by keeping her head on his lap. He seems worried the entire time, and asks around for water. Once her seizure is over, Ajay is relieved, and kisses her forehead lovingly. He starts taking care of her, and even packs and cooks for her. They leave for Lucknow, and Ajay knows he is in love. This time, when someone asks him to pass food on the flight, he does it happily. He helps Nisha with her bags at the airport, and helps her get into a cab comfortably. He knows she probably wants to head home, and has decided to accept it. Nisha has noticed how much she has changed, and decides to go back home with him. Ajay rushes to the cab before she changes her mind, and happily holds her hand. Ajay hugs his father when he's back, and shows him that Nisha has come along too. His parents are very excited to see them together, and his mom feels like Ajay has changed a lot. They enjoy a meal as Nisha gives them the gift she got from the trip. Now, Ajay doesn't care about his job, but knows he will never stop Nisha from pursuing her dreams again. At the review meeting with the legislator, Ajay confesses he has never been a good teacher, and everything he ever did was to maintain a fake reputation. But he also knows he has taught the students about the war with full dedication. He still accepts his fate and hands in his resignation. As he gets up to leave, the principal starts reading out the marks and names of his students. He learns about the surprise test, where all his students scored exceptionally well. The legislator is satisfied Ajay has learned from his mistakes, and doesn't want the school to lose out on a good teacher like him, and rips up his resignation. When Ajay leaves the room this time, he is greeted by smiling faces of all the students. He even apologizes to the legislator's son for hitting him. Bipin feels he still has a lot to learn from him. He points him towards Nisha, and Ajay happily takes her on his bike, and they both ride off together.